Hey guys, how's your day going? So in Star Wars, we've learned about more Jedi than we could possibly hope for in the movies alone. But we've seen relatively little of the Sith. It's this lack of information that brings such mystery to who they are and what their powers were like. In Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the mere mention of Darth Plagueis was enough to get my heart racing as I let my imagination run wild on who he was and if you would ever see him in a movie or something like that, or how he even trained Palpatine. Plus, of course, wondering if Snoke then, later on, was really Plagueis was also a very fun theory to play around with. Now, I really wish they would have done that, but I digress. If we know very little about Darth Plagueis, we know even less about his master, Darth Tenebris, who is a renowned shipbuilder and scientific genius. Both of these Sith played crucial roles in bringing about the eventual revenge of the Sith. But who trained Darth Tenebris? Who was his master? And what critical role did he play in the Sith Grand Plan, if any? We learn a little bit about him in the Legends novel Darth Plagueis. So little, in fact, that we don't even know what his name was. We do know that he was a Twi'lek Dark Lord of the Sith and reigned during the final centuries of the Galactic Republic. So we'll call him Darth Twi'lek or Twi'lek for simplicity's sake. Darth Twi'lek, like the generations of Sith that came before him, followed the lineage of the Sith Lord Darth Bane and adhered to his rule of two, which restricted the Sith to one master and one apprentice to prevent infighting. He took a Bith male named Rugus Gnome as his apprentice and named him Darth Tenebris. The Twi'lek Sith Master and Tenebris were dedicated to advancing the Grand Plan, which was a Sith plot to destroy the Jedi Order and take over the Republic. At this time, the Sith didn't have their brilliant plan to cause a civil war, use a clone army, or turn the Republic against the Jedi like we eventually see in the prequels. Darth Twi'lek and Tenebris were trying another method. He and his apprentice worked for years to develop a virus that would target and sever a Jedi's connection to the Force, thus rendering them powerless. However, the Master and Tenebris ultimately abandoned the project since not only could they not get it to work, but they also couldn't stop a virus from infecting them as well. Darth Twi'lek's biggest contribution in the Grand Plan, however, that at some point during the Sith Master's reign, the Twi'lek opened a rift in the Force, allowing the Jedi to sense the dark side of the Force for the first time in 8 centuries since the Battle of the New Sith Wars. Legends doesn't tell us much about this, but this would be a huge moment, especially since the Jedi were complacent enough to not do anything about it. As much as I hate to say it, there's still some truth in Luke Skywalker's words when he said, at the height of their power, the Jedi and their arrogance allowed the Sith to destroy them. If anything, Darth Twi'lek's rift in the Force proved that the Sith's time for victory was near, since the Jedi seemed to believe that the Sith threat was forever gone and were not defending themselves against it. Darth Tenebris' Sith Master taught him much about the Force, which Tenebris viewed as simple. Tenebris eventually came to believe that the Force was an energy source that he could manipulate in order to achieve his goals. After reading the prophecies in the Journal of the Wills regarding the Chosen One who would bring balance to the Force, Tenebris was determined to use a variation of the essence transfer, a Force technique that enabled its user to transfer his or her consciousness into another body. So basically transferring their mind into another vessel. At the moment of the individual's birth, thus making himself the Chosen One. Now I'm going to talk more about this in its separate video because there's a lot of information about it and it's a pretty cool topic. Around 167 years before the Battle of Yavin, when Tenebris' calculations for his new scheme was complete, he killed his master, since he deemed him no longer necessary. Ironically, his apprentice Darth Plagueis would later think the same thing about him, as would Darth Sidious, thinking the same about Darth Plagueis, all before they would kill their masters. Just a long line of apprentices thinking they're smarter than their masters. One time while Plagueis taught Sidious, Plagueis praised Darth Twi'lek's role in advancing the Grand Plan, to topple the Jedi and the Republic and opening a rift in the Force. Again, this stuff is all legends, so it can be blown away by anything new that Lucasfilm does, but I do like that a Sith opened a rift in the Force to be felt by the Jedi. I'd like to learn more about that and why the Jedi didn't take it more seriously, since by the time Episode 1 comes around, they don't believe the Sith have returned. Perhaps the Jedi who felt it was killed before they told the Council. Or maybe the Jedi simply ignored it, like I said above. Or maybe it was really an accident and the Sith have to race to prevent the Jedi from figuring out what it was. Either way, the mystery of the Sith is something that will always fascinate me. I hope you've enjoyed this video about Darth Plagueis' Sith grandpa. Check out my other videos, got lots of Sith lords going out there, and a lot more Darth Plagueis content coming from the Plagueis book, because there's tons of stuff and it's a really cool book. Hope you enjoyed this video, leave a like if you did, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, The Force will be with you, always.
Now, fulfill your destiny.